This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Today, the Department of Justice released another 11,000 documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Now, in those files, some pretty damning stuff that I'm not going to be covering. However, there was one small mention of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I want to go ahead and show it to you because it did inspire today's video, which is about some things that Harry said back in March of 2020 that have aged very well. So now this file that I found in the latest Epstein drop was an actual email exchange that doesn't tell us who it is between. However, the subject of the exchange is about one article that came out from Yahoo Lifestyle titled Prince Harry Comments on Prince Andrew's Friendship with Jeffrey Epstein in Prank Phone Call. Now, if we could all take ourselves back in time to that point in history, March of 2020 was when Harry and Meghan had said their final goodbyes and left the UK. Keep in mind, this was around the time when the whole world was starting to shut down due to COVID. Before anybody knew anything about these two, Harry and Meghan were wildly popular, and it shows that just from this one article, Yahoo Lifestyle, this person, whoever they're talking to, stated that this article is estimated to have over $4 million in publicity value. Insane. Whoever they were talking to replied and said, "Has any other article come close to that?" An estimated 231,333,672 readers. Now, that is just from one stupid article. This person replies and says, "Nothing that I recall even comes close. For context, a really important Wall Street Journal or Times articles average about 250,000 to 500,000. That's nuts." And then it says this had Prince Andrew, Prince Harry, and Meghan Markle in the same story. So now let's think about this. At the height of Harry and Meghan's popularity, all of these media outlets were seeing Harry and Meghan as a cash cow. Because if one article had over 230 million readers, think about that in advertising dollars. Because 230 million readers equals into clicks. Somebody has to click onto that to read it. So you have one article out of many that people were reading. We're talking about billions of clicks on these two idiots. Today, I doubt they get that kind of traffic anymore because of how far they have fallen. So now what were they talking about back then? Well, if you don't remember, or if you weren't paying attention, apparently Harry was pranked by two YouTubers by the name of Vovin and Lexus, who were able to catch Prince Harry off guard in a recorded conversation whom Prince Harry thought he was talking to the doom goblin herself, Greta Thunberg. I don't know if you remember when this happened. I know I remembered it because it was one of those moments that raised alarm bells for me. Here you have a British prince on U.S. soil seeking refuge and openly criticizing the leader of the country as well as its policies. Regardless of how people felt at that time about Trump, it was insulting to have this foreigner here in the United States insulting the leader of this country. You know, I'm not the only one that shared this sentiment. Many Americans were pissed off that this guy had the audacity to criticize the country that has welcomed him and given him safe refuge. Given that this was mentioned in the Epstein files today, I took it upon myself to go back and revisit this leaked conversation. And I'm so glad that I did because the first go around, there were a lot of things that we didn't pick up or had any meaning to what they were planning on doing here. So let's go ahead and revisit some of those things so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, I just want to preface that even though Buckingham Palace nor Prince Harry have come forward to confirm that it is indeed Prince Harry's voice, ET Canada came forward to confirm that it was indeed the Duke of Sussex.
Hello, it's Harry. Good evening.
Good morning on your side. And Greta is in a conference now.
Hi, Royal Highness Harry. Nice to meet you. Nice to hear you.
Hi, Greta.
Or just Harry. How can I call you?
You can call me whatever you want, but Harry is fine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Want to say that you are such a lovely couple with Meghan. It's so beautiful. Yes,
Thank you very, very much.
Grift.
And you are in Canada now, Harry.
We're in Canada, in British Columbia, where there's a storm of strong winds and rain, but it's still a beautiful place.
Mhm.
Wow, that's nice. I know that you help, by the way, many charitable foundation and programs.
Well, we try and do our best. I've spent many years being criticized by the media for doing all sorts of things and trying to change the way that we think. And I can sympathize, but also at the same time applaud the work that all of you are doing, because it's not an easy time, and the world is in a troubled place. And well, unfortunately, the world is being led by some very sick people.
You were planning to open your own foundation soon.
Yes, no, for sure. I think at the moment, my wife and I, we were being directed towards starting a foundation, but we actually decided that there's probably enough foundations out there doing amazing work, and there's a hell of a lot of money sort of being passed around the world. We don't think that the world needs necessarily another foundation from us.
So you heard what Harry just said. My wife and I were being directed towards starting a foundation, but we actually decided there's probably enough foundations out there doing amazing work. And this is the key part, there is a hell of a lot of money being passed around the world. We don't think the world needs necessarily another foundation from us. So based on what we've observed over the last 5 years through the lens of the royal grift, then it makes sense on why they did not go the route of a foundation. We know that a public charity is far more useful than a private foundation, even though Harry and Meghan want to pretend that they are these big power players. They're a public charity. You see, these public charities have flexibility where money is allowed to flow in from governments, corporations, and small donors alike, while obscuring who really drives the actual agenda. Public charities also enjoy those wonderful tax benefits, greater flexibility in grant making, and fewer public red flags than a family-controlled foundation, which is immediately recognizable as a wealth management vehicle. And that's because they didn't want to use any of their money. You see, a foundation actually takes their own wealth and they invest it into these so-called philanthropic endeavors with the hopes of a return on investment, whether it be strategic in investing into groups that will lobby during Congress in order to then push policy, for then that policy to have impact on their business. With Harry and Meghan, it's just a straight up grift. Harry showed his hand from the very beginning, saying there's a hell of a lot of money being passed around the world. Well, yeah, from the United States.
Yes, that's true. That's why I'm planning to launch a new campaign in February, supported by world stars, called Stars Save the Earth.
I completely agree. I think people need to be woken up, and the only way to wake people up from what effectively is a consciousness crisis. There's always going to be so many people, especially at the top, be it presidents, prime ministers, anyone within government or within the media, that's going to try and stop any change from happening, whether it's because of their own bias, whether it's because of the fact that it's going to change the way that they are able to behave themselves, or just because, as I said earlier, because they may be sick.
Or they may be sick. What does Harry mean by that exactly?
We are tired of everything that is happening, especially around Europe, political crisis. And in your country, I've heard about it. We should be in the Union, but we are one European family, I think.
No, completely. I think for many years we've been at not at a tipping point, but every year we get closer. And once we get over that tipping point, then it all changes. But at the moment, the fossil fuel industry and certain presidents around the world are driving completely the wrong agenda.
Now, you notice Harry almost agreed here with this, but he stopped himself because that would have been in support of not being a part of Brexit. And it's almost like Harry has this Trump deranged syndrome because he is making a lot of references to presidents, but the president that he is referencing is Donald Trump. And at the time, Donald Trump wanted to scrap the whole green scam deal and move away from the Paris Accords.
And I think the most important thing to do is, I don't mind saying this to you guys, I think the mere fact that Donald Trump is pushing the coal industry so big in America, he has blood on his hands, because the effect that has on the climate and on the island nations far, far away, again, out of sight, out of mind. But we've visited those places, and I'm sure you have as well. People's lives have been completely destroyed. People are dying every single month by some form of natural disaster that has been created from this huge change in our climate. So again, we have to almost physically shake these people and get them to realize that not only are they stealing from your future, which you've said over and over again, which I applaud you for, but also that they are directly responsible for actually killing people and wiping out whole communities. And now I'm confident that within the next 5 to 10 years things will change, but we can't wait 5 or 10 years. So I think, if Donald Trump can become the president of the United States of America, then anything's possible, right?
Okay, so this is the part that really pissed me off the first time around, but listening to it again the second time around, I'm telling you, it makes me madder, because here is a guy who had a global platform and was spewing off saying that Donald Trump is responsible for killing people, when in actuality, it's China that is the problem. We're not the problem. China is the one who has the most carbon emissions that is causing all this damage, if we're going to go that route, Harry. During that time, China accounted for 30% of global CO2 emissions, and those emissions growth alone could cancel out reductions made by multiple other countries combined. So why is Harry not jumping all over China? It's because he knows that China would shut him up in a second. The United States allowed this man to come in here and disrespect not only our leader, but also the country that gave him all this opportunity.
And by the way, Harry, have you heard something about Chunga Chunga's problem? We've been there. It's really terrible. Have you heard something about it? It's interesting. Your opinion.
I actually haven't, because I don't look at the news anymore. That starts my day badly and finishes my day badly. The media will always want to control the narrative, and I hope that they are pretty horrible people. I think the world would be a much better place if we had decent people within the media, as it is the most influential platform around the world.
Again, this is so important to point out. Harry knows how powerful the media is, and we have watched him over the past 5 years weaponize it to his favor. All the paparazzi that he had been crying about, all those calls were coming from inside the house. And I almost wonder if he fully was on board with what Meghan was doing.
But I'd be very, very interested to know about it. But unfortunately, it's probably not an individual case. It's happening all over the world.
I heard that your prime minister is more smart guy than Mr. Trump.
I don't know who told you that, but they're probably not entirely accurate. The fact that our choice was between those two individuals, in my mind, I think probably creates more of an observation that the system itself might be broken. So,
at the time in 2020, this dumb asshole thought that our democratic process was broken because we, the people, elected Donald Trump in 2016. So Harry's activism in fixing this problem was to interfere with the 2020 election and essentially rob the American people of the rightful president that people wanted to put back in power. Right? We had the Hunter Biden laptop story that was suppressed. He was hanging out with all of those people who were censoring people online and was actively partaking in this censorship with them. Again, how many people lost their accounts on social media and got deplatformed, as well as affected to be able to earn an income as a result of this fool? So this asshole thinks that our democratic process was broken, but then came to the United States to break it further. Like, I know you can hear the anger, because listening to this takes me back to the way that I felt the first time that I heard it.
More of an observation that the system itself might be broken. So I don't know. I think there's a lot that the leaders of today can learn and can listen to people like yourself. Almost sort of convincing myself. The most important thing is not to listen to them because they do not speak for the general public.
So, listening to this part again in him saying for people to not listen to the leaders, to me, sounds like sedition. Because if Harry is being seen here in the United States as a head of state and has come to tell the American people to not listen to our president, if I didn't know any better, this sure sounds like Harry came over here and is trying to overthrow our government. I mean, seriously, if this is what he has been talking to the youth about, think about that. How dangerous that is.
Have you already reduced your carbon footprint on your planes? I have read.
Yeah, exactly.
You were criticized for that.
Oh, jeez. It's amazing. It's amazing that we get accused by them for having to use a plane that was simply used to get away from them and not be followed for a family break. But it is, that's another one of the things that we live in today. Unfortunately, there is very few alternatives. I mean, we have to fly on commercial planes all over the world. Not as much, nowhere near as much as most people who do it for, a night or weekends. We do, official overseas visits to Commonwealth countries in support of my grandmother, and we have to get there and we have to fly. But it's by commercial flights, and occasionally we have to fly privately. These people are never ending. I mean, as I look out the window here, we've had boats with paparazzi taking photographs, trying to get photographs of us while we are far, far away and in the middle of nowhere. So they always have a way of finding you. But when possible, I will try and find the means to be able to get somewhere without them knowing and following us. But I don't think, even I will admit to you, I don't think carbon offset is. I don't think it works. I don't think it's big enough. We have to change our habits. Of course we do. We have to find alternatives.
I have some idea to teach the yellow media. Maybe we will arrange a charity action where we will display your and my outfits of special fashion show, and money that we will get can be directed to charitable activities, maybe something like that. Maybe we can find something from the wardrobe of Queen Elizabeth. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think so. But Greta, if I can give you a little bit of advice, I wouldn't. You have such an amazing platform. I wouldn't waste your time on raising money. There is so much money in this world that if you get the right people together, they will give you as much as you need to be able to fight this battle for everybody else.
So you all heard that loud and clear. He is saying that there's so much money in this world that if you get the right people together, they will fund the cause. So the big question is, since the little doom goblin is no longer trying to save the earth, she's now moved on to supporting Free Palestine and just got arrested in London, who is backing this little troll? This is coming out today from London.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to ask you, can be a non-issue, but the story of Prince Andrew is very sad. So,
of course, I think I have very little to say about that. But whatever he has done or hasn't done is completely separate from me and my wife. We operate in a way of inclusivity and focusing on community. So we are completely separate from the majority of my family.
It's like really funny. He's saying we're trying to promote inclusivity and community, but at the same time, he's saying, nope, I want nothing to do with these people. I have nothing to do with it. I don't know what they're up to. We're just doing our own thing. Then really, you're not promoting inclusivity or community, especially when you exclude your own family, Harry. Anyhow, I thought it'd be fun to take a trip down memory lane to remind everybody why Prince Harry should have been deported from the very beginning. Now, apparently today, the word on the street going around online is that a certain overseas couple are in a lot of trouble having something to do with using their titles commercially. I don't know anything about that, but what I can tell you is that things are happening at the State Department. And today, Marco Rubio announced the actions that we're going to be taking against Europe on their involvement with silencing Americans' free speech. Now, this is something that we've been talking about over the last several days, and it's very relevant to what Harry and Meghan were involved with and still involved with. But let me read to you this announcement so you can understand the heat that probably is being felt over in Montecito right now. In this press statement by Marco Rubio, it says, the State Department is taking decisive action against 5 individuals who have led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints they oppose. These radical activists and weaponized NGOs have advanced censorship crackdowns by foreign states, in each case targeting American speakers and American companies. As such, I have determined that their entry, presence, or activities in the United States have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. Let me go ahead and finish reading this. It says, based on these determinations, the department has taken steps to impose visa restrictions on agents of the global censorship industrial complex who, as a result, will be generally barred from entering the United States. Further, based on the foreign policy determination, the Department of Homeland Security can initiate removal proceedings against certain individuals pursuant to INA Section 237A4C, which renders such individuals deportable. President Trump has been clear that his America First foreign policy rejects violations of American sovereignty. Extraterritorial overreach by foreign censors targeting American speech is no exception. The State Department stands ready and willing to expand today's lists if other foreign actors do not reverse course. Well, 5 years of Harry going at it, I don't see him reversing anytime soon, so I wouldn't give him the benefit of the doubt. These actors are pursuant to Section 212A3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which renders inadmissible any alien whose entry into the United States the Secretary of State determines would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. Certain family members may also be covered by these restrictions. In addition, Section 237A4C of the Immigration and Nationality Act renders any alien deportable from the United States if the Secretary of State has reasonable grounds to believe the alien's presence or activities in the United States would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. Now, if you had the chance to watch this video that I did 2 days ago, I talked about the letter that Eric Schmidt sent to Undersecretary of State Sarah B. Rogers. Today, a super win because Imran Ahmed from the CCDH, the Center for Countering Digital Hate that Harry and Meghan work with, you can see his fugly looking face right there, has gotten sanctioned. Undersecretary of State Sarah B. Rogers writes, we've sanctioned Imran Ahmed, key collaborator with the Biden administration's effort to weaponize the government against U.S. citizens. Ahmed's group, Center for Countering Digital Hate, otherwise known as CCDH, created the infamous Disinformation Dozen report, which called for platforms to deplatform 12 American anti-vaxxers, including now HHS Secretary Kennedy. Leaked documents from CCDH show the organization listed kill Musk's Twitter and trigger EU and UK regulatory actions as priorities. The organization supports the UK's Online Safety Act and EU's Digital Services Act to expand censorship in Europe and around the world. Remember, Archwell and James Holt were involved with these planning sessions, especially around the creation of this Fugazi Parents Network. The other 4 that got sanctioned today are Thierry Breton, who is the former EU commissioner, the one responsible for the DSA monstrosity. Then we have Annalena von Holtenberg of Hate Aid and Josephine Ballon of Hate Aid, as well as Claire Melford from the Global Disinformation Index, GDI. So naturally, the Liberal Democrats in the UK are up in arms and had The Guardian push out this bullshit propaganda where it says Lib Dems call for inquiry into hostile foreign state interference to include US. Wah! It says here, an inquiry into interference by hostile foreign states in the UK should be extended to cover the actions of Donald Trump's US, the Liberal Democrats have said in a letter to the Communities Secretary, Steve Reed, whose department is leading on the independent review. The Lib Dems said the U.S. government's explicit support for far-right nationalist parties in Europe amounted to outside interference. Well, wait till we start talking about Prince Harry. That's not a can of worms that they want to open right now, but hey, I'm ready. The U.S. National Security Strategy set out this month said Europe faces civilizational erasure due to migration and EU integration, and that Washington should cultivate resistance within the continent. The document used language echoing the racist Great Replacement conspiracy theory, saying several countries risk becoming majority non-European and praised the growing influence of patriotic European parties. No, this is not a conspiracy theory because the UN had issued a paper that said replacement migration because of failing birth rates. That's not a conspiracy. The inquiry into the effect of financial influence and other interference is expected to primarily focus on Russia and similar hostile states. It was announced on Tuesday after the jailing of Nathan Gill, a former senior figure in Reform UK. In the letter to Reed, Callum Miller, the Lib Dems Foreign Affairs spokesperson, Lisa Smart, the party's cabinet office spokesperson, and Zoe Franklin, who shadows Reed, praised the inquiry and said foreign interference in the UK was a real and growing threat. It read, though the impetus for the investigation follows grave concerns about the extent of Russia's penetration of our political system, we must be clear-eyed too about the threat of interference now posed by the United States. In his recent national security strategy, President Trump outlined the U.S. new policy of cultivating resistance within Europe. This reflects nothing less than an explicit call for interference in European politics, including our own. Oh, like what Harry did over here in the United States, telling people not to listen to our president? Ah, you don't like it when it's done to you now, huh? Will the government commit, therefore, to include the U.S. administration, including President Trump and his associates, in the scope of its investigation? Anything less would constitute an egregious blind spot in our efforts to ensure British politics is free from outside manipulation. The Lib Dems have repeatedly sought to push Keir Starmer's government to take a more robust stance against a U.S. president who, polling shows, is unpopular with many UK voters. No, that's a lie. I'm telling you, UK wants a leader like Donald Trump to put a stop to the blatant destruction of the country. In September, during Trump's second state visit to the UK, Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, boycotted a state banquet hosted by King Charles in honor of the US president as a protest against what Davey said was a failure to intervene decisively to end the war in Gaza. In a separate statement, Miller said Donald Trump has made it his explicit policy to interfere in European politics and cultivate resistance in the UK and elsewhere. No, we're trying to help prevent it from falling. But if people in the EU as well as the UK don't want to fight for their countries, then that shouldn't be our problem. We're just trying to help here. Failure to include Trump's government as part of this new probe would be deeply irresponsible and would leave a gaping hole in our defenses against the manipulation of our politics. Oof, as I've been saying, tensions are escalating, and today's sanctions probably is going to send the UK over the edge. But you know what? Good. Because we're not going to tolerate this authoritarian takeover of the world. We don't want it. I consider today a win because justice is coming for Prince Harry. We just need to keep talking about it. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up, and if you can, share it with just one person. Show everybody what this guy is about. Also, if you're on X, don't hesitate to go over and shoot a message to Undersecretary of State Sarah B. Rogers. Let her know about the prince's activities here in the United States these past 4 years and why we're demanding that he too also be sanctioned. All we need to do is stay in faith and believe that justice is coming. And on that note, definitely let me know your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
Such a fraud.